the clock. Hi, my name is Kim Johnson, and I'm here with two of our doctoral students, Hunter McGuire and Mariah Croston. And we're going to talk to you about our support services for statistics at the Brown School. So I'm going to give a brief presentation first, and then we're going to open it up to some discussion with our peer tutors. So the Stat Lab is co-directed by myself. I'm an associate professor in the public health program at the Brown School, and also by Dr. Janine Harris, who is the same. She's an associate professor in the public health program. And we founded this quite a few years ago to help students with their statistical needs as they go through the program. Because statistics is really important, and sometimes when students are first entering, scary part of evidence-based practice. And so we have the goal to help students with their quantitative coursework. So it's staffed by peer master level and doctoral level tutors. We operate generally when the school is in session. We try to operate Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 consistently. There's some slight semester to semester variation. We have an appointment system when you enter our program that you will become acquainted with, where you can make your appointments online. And for the upcoming year, we may have both virtual and in-person visits. We also have walk-in appointments if students have last-minute needs. Sometimes our tutors are available on demand. What do our tutors help with? Well, they can help you with finding data sources. For some of your classes, you will need to find data to analyze. They can help you with your homework. They can help you understand statistical definitions and choosing methods. You will become very acquainted with one or more of these softwares, which sometimes involve coding. And so they can help with that. And that's R, Stata, SPSS, and SAS are four of the most commonly used statistical softwares for analyzing data. They can also help you with managing your data, which mostly involves coding. And they can also help you with interpreting your statistical results. So with that, that's a brief introduction. I will have a discussion with our tutors about what it's like to work for the Stat Lab. And I have a question to open up for either Mariah or Hunter. So what is the reason that students you assist come to the Stat Lab? What are some of the primary things that you help with, in your own words?
I can go ahead and take this question first. I think it might be interesting to hear sort of the difference in my response and Hunter's response, since I've been working in Stat Lab for a few years, and Hunter, your experience has been all during the pandemic. So things have changed quite a bit, but during my time in the Stat Lab, I find that students come for diverse courses. So any number of master's courses that are quantitatively related. So that could be intro to statistics, applied linear modeling, advanced data analysis, any one of the skill labs that's specific to one of the softwares that you mentioned, Dr. Johnson, R, SPSS, SAS, Stata. So it requires a great deal of flexibility from us, but it does depend on the semester and what courses are being offered. I often see students who are taking doctoral level classes as well, specifically applied linear regression. Since I do TA that class, I see students for independent study for their capstone projects, a few students for dissertation work. So anything that is quantitative in nature, we're likely to be the go-to spot, in addition to, of course, your other resources like your instructors and TAs. But yeah, the issues that we see, they really run the gamut of courses, as well as like all of the types of issues that you mentioned earlier. So data management, finding data sets, analysis, interpretation. So we're quite flexible in that way.
Yeah, and I will add on to that. So I've been, as Maria said, like I've been operating mostly in the pandemic in Stat Lab. So the things that people have been coming to me most have just been like things of their coursework, and also just some non-class like research projects. And so my expertise is mostly in SAS coding. So now I'm getting more and more students who are like learning that I am the SAS person. So they're all coming to me with like their data management and recoding stuff in SAS, and how to run specific tests in SAS, and general issues with like code not running, that kind of stuff. And then also just like what Mariah was saying earlier, like interpreting statistical results, and then also defining terms that are commonly used in classes that may not be covered as much as maybe students want. And so they need a little bit extra help.
So how does that work? Because I'm kind of over Zoom, I'm wondering, because sometimes when we're face to face, we can grab the student's mouse and show them what to do, which we shouldn't do, but sometimes we get anxious. So how does it work over Zoom when you're helping students with their analysis?
Yeah, for me, it's been usually I ask the student to share their screen, and then we'll walk through their code, and I'll just sort of point out like, oh, you're missing a semicolon there. You need to add that in, and that's why it's not running. Or and sometimes I will like just say, okay, just like add this one word, and you'll be perfect. But so it's usually just them sharing the screen, and then me just sort of trying to figure out, so what's the issue that's going on.
Yeah, I work similarly. I make use of the chat box as well. So if there's some correction that needs to be made to the code or something I want a student to consider, I'll add it to the chat box. I will say like that has been quite a challenge to adapt to the virtual world. There's also, I lean heavily on paper and pencil. So if we're covering concepts in lab, I might bust out my handy pad and pen or pencil and say, okay, let's talk about this. Let's visualize this. I quickly realized, okay, that's not going to work. The whole, can you see this? Can you see this? That doesn't work. So fortunately, I have a computer that works as a tablet, and I have a stylus. So I'll make use of OneNote and the stylus to draw things out. I had to pivot to that and lean on that more heavily these days.
And sometimes as an instructor, I'll use the whiteboard function in Zoom, which can also be helpful. So for students who are wondering, how can they best come prepared for a Stat Lab appointment? I know you probably have some useful tips about that, so you can help them as best you can in the shortest amount of time.
I mean, my first thought was just coming with a very specific question, and something in a very specific like project that you're working on. You can also ask questions about like general concepts, but it's oftentimes easier for me just to sort of explain things by doing them, or by having something concrete to work on.
Yeah, I agree with Hunter. The more specific the question, or the more specific you are in the concept that you're maybe struggling with, the better. The better we can make use of the 30-minute time slot, because 30 minutes goes by pretty quickly. And while we can get there together if we need to further refine what the issue is, there's some of that work up front. It's really helpful.
Yep. Yeah, and I've heard in the past too that students should come having reviewed their homework assignments, for example, if they want help with that prior to meeting with the Stat Lab tutor. So because that 30 minutes does go by really fast, and sometimes the Stat Lab can be really busy at certain points in the semester. So there may be other appointments behind you. Is there anything else you'd like to tell new students about the Stat Lab?
Something that I think we don't often mention when talking about Stat Lab is this issue of confidence. And Dr. Johnson, I think you mentioned this during the core presentation, this apprehension that students feel, or this fear that they feel about quantitative subjects, or crafting syntax, working in software, or working with certain software. And that's something that I think as peer tutors, we're often contending with as well. So it's not just competence, there's confidence also. So there are a lot of students that I work with, and I sort of temperature check up front if it's not blatantly obvious to me, what's your confidence level with this subject or subjects similar to it? Because oftentimes what I'm working on with students is just their trust in themselves and their ability to grasp the material and to turn that into knowledge. And so I love it when working with students, and I'm identifying their aha moments, but at some point with the regulars, they start to identify their own aha moments, which I really love as they begin to trust themselves and build their confidence. So I think that's another thing that kind of sets us apart as more advanced peers. It is a safe space, so to speak, or a space where you can be vulnerable to say, I'm just not quite clear, and I'm afraid of this material, and we can work on that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that statistics can be scary. We hear that a lot. People think they're not good at math, or but I think and aren't very confident that way. I think it takes a lot of patience, and there is frustration to learning. But frustration, I always tell my students, it is part of learning. If you keep at it, you will have more and more of those aha moments. And we provide an environment, I think, that's really supportive for students, especially those who are a little bit more intimidated by that type of content. Hunter, any kind of last words?
Yeah, so on a related point, like I would even call myself someone so when I was an undergrad, I was not a math person or a statistics person. And so transitioning to grad school was very difficult that first semester. And so I wish I would have had some kind of resource like this as I was in my MPH program. And so that transition can be hard. So I'm hoping that whenever students come back in the fall, that they'll be able to use StatLab, just get some more of that one-on-one time to ensure they don't fall behind in their coursework, or they don't get frustrated with their coursework.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we have used up our time. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. I think our school staff that you have their contact information can certainly give you ours, and we can chat more about this. All right, thank you, Hunter and Mariah.
Thank you. Good to see you both.
Thank you.
Bye.